Hi, welcome to Reading Greek Tragedy Online Live. I'm Joel Christensen from Brandeis University, and we are here at the campus of Harvard University, and we're joined by members of Out of Chaos Theater, the Center for Hellenic Studies, the Cosmos Society, and a collection of great actors, Damian, Jermaine, Thompson, Eunice Roberts, René Thornton Jr., and Sara Valentine. And today we come together in person for the first time to return to the island of Lemnos and Sophocles Philoctetes.
So here we are on the shores of Lemnos, a lonely place well off the beaten track, surrounded by the sea. No one lives here. This was the place, Neoptolemus, son of Achilles, bravest and best of all the Greeks, where many years ago I left Philoctetes, son of Poias, a man from Malis. I abandoned him, acting on orders from our two commanders. His foot was dripping with infectious sores, painful ulcers. He kept screaming all the time. His strange, wild howling rang throughout the camp. He cried so much we could not pray in peace or make libations and burn sacrifice. But what's the point in talking of that now? This is no time to tell long stories, for if he learns I'm here, then my whole scheme, the one I think will catch him quickly, fails. Look, your job is to carry out the tasks we still have left to do, to find a rock somewhere around here which has two openings, so shaped that when it's cool, there are two seats facing the sun, and when it's hot, the breeze wafts sleep in through the chamber tunnel. To the left below it, if you might glimpse a water spring, if it's still functioning, climb up the rock. Keep quiet, then signal me if you see those features there or somewhere else. After that, I'll tell you my entire plan, then both of us will carry out my scheme.
Lord Odysseus, that task you mentioned, I think we're close. I see a cave up here, quite like the one you talked about.
Above you or below? I don't see it.
It's up here, high up. I can hear a sound, no footsteps.
Watch out. He may be there in bed asleep.
The place is empty. I don't see anyone.
Anything in there which might indicate some human lives inside?
Yes, there is. A bed of leaves pressed down. Someone lives here.
Is it empty otherwise? Nothing else hidden in the cave?
There's a wooden cup, crudely made, and some wretched craftsman's work, and kindling too, set to light a fire.
What you describe must be the things he owns.
Look here, there's something else. Rags left to dry. Ugh, they're full of pus. The stench.
This is the spot. His foot is crippled with that old disease. He can't go far. He's gone to find some food or a remedial herb he's seen somewhere. Son of Achilles, to fulfill your mission, you must be loyal to your ancestry. That's more than something merely physical. If you hear a plan you've not heard before and it sounds strange, you must obey it. You're with me here as my subordinate.
What are your orders?
With Philoctetes, when you speak to him, tell him a story. You have to trick him, lead his mind astray. When he asks you who you are and where you're from, say you're Achilles' son, no deception there, but tell him you intend to sail for home. You've left the Achaeans' naval forces because you truly hate them, and here's why. In their prayers, they summoned you from home to Troy, since you're the only hope they've got to take the city. But then they judged you not good enough to have Achilles' arms, although you came to claim them as your right. Instead, they gave them to Odysseus. Say what you like of me, pile up the insults, the worst there are, that won't injure me. But if you don't go through with what I say, you'll hurt the Argives, every one of them. If we don't get our hands on that man's bow, you'll never capture Troy successfully, never destroy the realm of darkness. Let me tell you why you can talk to him and safely win his trust while I cannot. You've joined the Trojan expedition freely. You've made no oath to anyone. In fact, you weren't a member of that first contingent. But I was, and I can't deny the fact. If he sees me while he still has his bow, I'm lost, and you as my companion will share my fate. That's why we need a plan. We need some scheme so you can find a way to steal his bow, which is invincible. My boy, I know your nature is not fit to make up lies or speak deceitful things, but winning victory's prize is sweet indeed. So force yourself to do it. After this, the justice of our actions will be clear. So now, for one short day, follow my lead without a sense of shame. In time to come, they'll call you the finest man there is.
Son of Laertes, I hate to carry out an order which it hurts to listen to. It's not my nature to do anything based on deceit. My father, so they say, was just the same. But I am prepared to take him by force. No trickery. He's just one man on foot. He'll never win against so many of us in a fight. Since I was ordered here to work with you, I am not eager to be called disloyal. Still, my lord, I would prefer much to fail in something honorable than to win out with treachery.
You noble father's son. When I was young, I had a quiet tongue as well. I let my active hands speak up for me. But now I've gone out into adult life and faced its trials. I see with mortal men the tongue, not action, rules in everything.
What are your orders then, apart from lying?
I'm ordering you to use deceitful means to seize Philoctetes.
But why deceit? Why not persuade
The
him?
man won't listen, and he's not someone you can take by force.
Is he that confident, that powerful?
Indeed he is. His arrows never miss. Every shot brings death.
I have no chance at all if I move out to challenge him.
None whatsoever, unless, as I've said, you use some trick to grab him.
So you don't think there's any shame in saying something false?
No, not if the lies will save us all.
But how can anyone control his face when he dares speak such lies?
When what you do brings benefits, you should not hesitate.
If that man comes to Troy, how do I benefit?
The only way the city can be captured is with his bow and arrow.
So I'm not the one who will take the city, as you told me?
Yes, but you need them, and they need you.
If that's true, we must track them down, it seems.
By doing this work, you'll garner 2 rewards.
How? If I knew that, I'd not refuse it.
In this one act, you'll get yourself a name for shrewdness and nobility.
All right, I'll do it. I'll set aside my shame.
That story I sketched out for you just now, do you recall it?
You can be sure of that, since I have at least agreed to it.
All right, now you stay here and wait for him. I'll move off so I'm not seen around you, and I'll return our lookout to his ship. Now, if I think you're taking too much time, I'll send that same sailor here again, but I'll disguise his actions and his clothes to make him captain of some merchant ship beyond all recognition. Then, my boy, when he tells you some fancy tale, you listen, taking from it anything that helps you. Now I'm going to my ship. It's up to you. May Hermes, who guides men through deceptions, lead us through this, and with Athena too, goddess of victory, our city's patron, and the one who always rescues me.
When we got together almost over 2 years ago now to start staging Reading Greek Tragedy Online, we were really looking for some way to pass the time, to stay engaged with our work, and to really try to make sense of the experiences we were going through in the world that we were in. The Philoctetes was the second performance that we put on. Norman Sandridge was the guest that day, and Paul Omani, who's the artistic director, hi Paul, of this, put Philoctetes up there because, you know, the obvious theme of sort of isolation and loneliness. But one of the things that strikes me from Ian Johnston's translation today is that line that Odysseus just said, "The tongue, not action, rules everything." If anything, over the past 2 years, we've seen the power of words, lies, more than truth, just sort of guide the ship of our lives. So this translation, it's beautiful, it's free online. We've used Ian Johnston's translations before. And I have with me today 2 guest experts from Harvard, David Elmer and Naomi Weiss, to help us understand this play a little more deeply. So Naomi, we just saw this great scene between Odysseus and Neoptolemus. What do you think that an audience sort of needs to know to contextualize it and to move on to the action in the rest of the play?
Thank you so much. Well, an audience in 409 BCE, when this play was first produced in the city of Athens, in the theatre of Dionysus, would likely know the myth of Philoctetes from various sources. That is that this play is beginning 10 years into the Trojan War. 10 years ago, Philoctetes was on his way to Troy along with the other Greeks, stopped off on an island, Chryse, stumbled into a sacred grove and was bitten on his foot by a snake. The sore that developed was so disgusting, so repellent, so foul, that the Greeks couldn't stand to be near him. And Odysseus, but also the two leaders, Agamemnon and Menelaus, decided that they needed to leave Philoctetes behind. So they abandoned him on another island, Lemnos, which is this deserted place in this version with which this play begins. I guess an ancient audience would know that, and they would know that from various sources, including a whole load of plays about Philoctetes that were performed prior to this one. But there are some key variations. For example, most of those versions have Odysseus and Diomedes going now 10 years later to fetch Philoctetes rather than Odysseus and Neoptolemus. They are fetching Philoctetes because there has been a prophecy that they can only win the Trojan War if they bring Philoctetes and the bow that Heracles, the great hero Heracles, gave him back to Troy with them. So there are some fundamental differences which we can get into between those versions and this one. Also, the very fact that this is a deserted island. Lemnos was inhabited, both at the time of this play's production and in myth. So that is a very deliberate choice.
So we're on an island, or we're looking at an island. We're in the Trojan War narrative. We need this sort of magical item in order to bring the war to a close, right? Which seems like a nice adventure with this weird sort of contagion theme. But David, what do you think are some of the themes that attract people to this play? Like what's important about this play that may set it apart from those other stagings, or might be interesting to audiences?
I think there's a number of really interesting and important themes that are already beginning to emerge in this first scene that we've had here. So I just like to mention a couple that always stand out to me when I'm reading this play. One that we've already seen in the exchange between Neoptolemus and Odysseus is the contrast between honor, which Neoptolemus is very committed to, and expediency, which Odysseus is championing. And we can kind of map that contrast onto, let's say, a contrast between transparency, honesty, openness, and deception or concealment. By the way, I mean, I come to this play primarily as a scholar of Homeric poetry. So for me, there's an immediate resonance with the encounter between Achilles, Neoptolemus's father, and Odysseus in the Iliad, where this same contrast between transparency, openness, honesty, which Achilles stands for, and expediency or concealment, which Odysseus stands for, is very prominent. So for me, this is one big thing that Sophocles brings into the play by substituting, as Naomi said, substituting Neoptolemus for Diomedes. We bring in that kind of archetypal encounter between Odysseus and Achilles into this play. But another important theme, I think, for this play, to pick up on the idea of isolation, which you mentioned, is the contrast between social wholeness and social fragmentation. And this is, of course, a story that is going to ultimately, oh wait, should I? Spoiler alert, I'm going to give away part of the ending. Ultimately, Philoctetes is going to return to his community at Troy. So this is a play that is tending towards the restoration of a community. But throughout it, we have this kind of Philoctetes who is so determined to hang on to his isolation because of his feeling of alienation, which is so powerful in this play. And it would be really interesting, maybe we'll have time later to talk about how the original ritual context for the performance of this play resonates with those themes. Oh, sorry, can I just one more very important theme? How do you know or understand or recognize somebody else's pain? Okay, that's something that really, really comes out in the central themes of this play.
So one of the things that's really fascinating about this process is how we decontextualize, we put a performance in a new space and still see how these themes work. When we do this online, I get a secret chat box to warn people what I'm going to ask them. But I'm interested in the way we transition from one space to another. So I use that as a segue, Naomi. David is hinting at the importance of the civic performances for Dionysus in Athens. But this play also comes from the context, not just the ritual performance, but a trilogy and a very different type of performative spectacle than we're used to in the modern world. So can you talk a little bit about what ancient audiences might have seen and what would have bounded this particular play as part of this trilogy?
Thank you. So in terms of what an original audience might have seen, they would have been on the southern slope of the Acropolis in Athens, in the Theatre of Dionysus. Looking out, you can see much of the city, and beyond that, the water, and even see over to the Peloponnese. I say that because it is important to remember that this is an outdoor location, and this is the dramatic world in the play is also outdoors, and so it's a play where the environment in which it was first produced merges in really interesting ways with the environment of the drama itself. There's some interesting things to say about staging for this play. Again, there's only so far we can go in terms of reconstruction, but we're on a remote island. It's emphasized over and over again quite how isolated this place is, because Sophocles clearly wants to bring out the themes of isolation. And as we heard and saw, Odysseus and Neoptolemus are looking for signs of life and spot a cave. Now, when we think of the skene, the scene building, stage building, sorry, in the theatre, we tend to think of it representing a palace or a house. But in this play, it represents a cave, and the entrance into it is the entrance into a cave, which is quite striking, I guess, a play to bring in, to construct, to think about in relation to this one would be Prometheus Found, also a kind of extreme outdoor location. So there might be some surprises, even for an ancient audience, those sorts of aspects. We don't know much about the other plays in the tetralogy, the other two tragedies and satyr plays. So we're basically left with this one for now.
Thank you, and thank you for humoring my questions. So one of the big parts of the ancient performance is the chorus, which would have been a group of people garishly dressed at times. There's song, there's dance. Modern performances don't really embrace that. But in the next scene, we're going to start with Eunice Roberts rising to the challenge of playing the ancient chorus.
I pity him, with no human to look after him, and no companion's face to see. He lives a miserable life, alone, always alone, infected with a cruel disease, confused about what he should do to cope with every pressing need. How does he bear a fate so grim? It is the workings of the gods. What a wretched race of men they are, whose life exceeds due measure. This man Philoctetes, for all we know, is just as good as any member of the finest clan. But here he lies all by himself, apart from other human beings, with shaggy goats and spotted deer, suffering from hunger pangs and from his painful wound. It's pitiful. He has to bear an agony that has no cure, and as he cries in bitter pain, the only answer comes from echo, a distant, senseless bow.
Well, nothing in all this surprises me. Let me explain just how I understand it. This man's sufferings come from the gods, both those afflicting him from savage crises, and those he suffers now without a cure. The gods are planning that Philoctetes will not aim his bow at Troy and shoot his shafts, those all-conquering arrows from the gods, until the time is right when people say those weapons take the city. That's Troy's fate.
Oh, my lad, be quiet.
Why? What's the matter?
I heard a noise, a sound that may have come from someone in distress from over there, I think, or maybe over there. Yes, I hear it. I hear the voice of someone hurt. That's it. Someone forced to crawl along the path, that heavy groaning of a man in pain. Even from far away, it's hard to miss. The cries are just too clear. Now, my lad, you should listen.
To what?
This man's not far away. He's close to us, bringing music home, not like a shepherd piping his flocks back to some melody, but screaming as he stumbles.
You there, you strangers, what country are you from? If I guessed your homeland or your family, what answer would be right? You look as if you're Greeks, at least from how you're dressed, and that's a sight that pleases me. But I'd like to hear you speak. Take pity on a wretched, lonely man, abandoned without friends, in misery.
Well, stranger, the first thing you should know is that we're Greeks. That's what you want to hear.
Oh, that language gives me such delight. To hear such words spoken by a man like this after so many years. Tell me, young man, what made you land here? Speak up, tell me everything so I know who you are.
My birthplace is the island of Skyros. Right now, I'm sailing home. I am Neoptolemus, Achilles' son. Now you know everything.
My lad, son of a man I truly loved, and from a land I cherish. What business brings you to this island? Where are you sailing from?
Well, if you must know, I'm sailing now away from Troy.
What's that you say? I'm sure you weren't one of those on board when our first expedition sailed for Troy.
Did you take part in that great enterprise?
My boy, you mean you don't know who I am? You have no clue who you are looking at.
How can I know a man I've never seen?
You don't know my name. You've never even heard a rumor of my deadly suffering.
And let me assure you, I know none of that. I have no idea what you're asking.
Oh, how truly miserable I must be, how bitter to the gods, if not a word, not even rumors of my living here have reached my home or any part of Greece. My boy, young lad whose father is Achilles. The man who stands here right in front of you is someone you perhaps have heard about as master of the arms of Heracles. Yes, I am Poeas' son, Philoctetes, the man those two commanders of the army and that Cephalian king Odysseus so disgracefully threw out, deserted here while I was suffering with this cruel disease. I was bitten by a savage, deadly snake. Our fleet had sailed from Chryse by the sea. It landed here. Then, my boy, they left me with this infection as my sole companion. Yes, they left me here alone. Once they saw my storms of pain had passed and I was sleeping, they were so happy to abandon me under an overhanging rock here on shore, setting out some rags, some scraps of food, a pittance, enough to please a beggar. I hope they get the treatment they gave me. My boy, can you imagine how I felt after my sleep that day when I woke up and found out that they disappeared? How I wept, how I cried out in distress when I saw the ships on which I sailed had all gone off. No one to help, no one to soothe the ache of my disease. I looked everywhere, but all I found around me was my pain. Of that, my lad, I've had more than my share. Now, time went by for me, month after month, alone in this small shelter. I was forced to look to my own needs all by myself. This bow gave me the food my stomach craved by shooting birds as they passed overhead. Each time an arrow flew out from the string and struck, I'd go crawling after it in pain, dragging this wretched foot behind me. No sailor ever comes too near this place, not if he can help it. If someone ever came unwillingly, well then, when they arrived, my boy, they'd talk to me, speak a few sympathetic words, and then from pity add some food or clothing. But there's one thing no one would ever do once I suggested it. Take me safely home. This is the 10th year of my misery, wasting away in hunger and distress, eaten up by this gluttonous disease. This is the work of those sons of Atreus, of Odysseus, that brutal man. They did this. May the Olympian gods give them someday full retribution for my agonies.
Son of Poias, I pity you as well, just like those visitors you've had before.
I too can testify to what you say. You speak the truth, for I've experienced how bad the sons of Atreus can be, and Odysseus's brutality as well.
What's that? You mean you too have complaints against those cursed sons of Atreus? Something they did to you to make you angry?
I wish one day my hand could vent my rage. So then they'd learn in Sparta and Mycena that Skyros is the mother of brave men.
Good for you, my lad. But what's your reason? Why are you so angry? What's the grudge you have against them?
I'll tell you, son of Poias. But it's hard to say what I went through on their account when I arrived at Troy. When fate declared Achilles had to die.
Whoa, what's that? Stop there. Answer this question first. Is Achilles, son of Peleus, dead?
He is. But no mortal killed him. It was a god. Phoebus, Apollo brought him down, they say, with an arrow shot.
Both noble beings, the killer and the killed. Now I'm not sure, my boy, what I should next. Question you about your suffering, or mourn Achilles.
Your own affections are enough for you, I think. You, unhappy man, you don't need to mourn the next man's troubles.
You're right. So tell me once again what you went through, how those men harmed you.
They came to me in a fancy decorated ship, a phoenix who raised my father and Lord Odysseus. They said, I don't know if it's true or not, that since my father had been killed, destiny decreed that no one except me could seize those towers in Troy. Well, my friend, once they said that, they gave me little time before we left. We sailed there at top speed, mainly because I had a great desire to see my father's corpse before the burial, since I had never seen him. In addition, what they said to me was truly wonderful. If I went back then, I'd capture Troy. Well, we rowed and had a favorable wind. So on my voyage, by the second day, we had reached Sigeum, that bitter place. Then, when I disembarked, all the army at once came crowding around me to welcome me, swearing they could see the dead Achilles alive again. But he just lay there dead. In my grief, I wept for him. Soon after that, I went to Atreus' sons as friends of mine, or so I thought, to claim my father's arms and all the rest that belonged to him. They gave me the most shameful of replies. Seed of Achilles, you may take away your father's things except his weapons. Another man is master of them now. Laertes' son, Odysseus. I jumped up. My anger was immediate and intense. Tears were in my eyes. Full of bitterness, I yelled at them. You miserable men! Have you too dared awarded my weapons to those men rather than to me without even keeping me informed? Then Odysseus spoke up. It so happened he was there nearby. Yes, boy, they did, and rightly too, because I rescued them. I was there to save your master's body. In my rage, I began to heap on him every insult I could think of, all at once. If he meant to steal those weapons from me, then there was nothing I was holding back. Hurt by my abuse, though not enraged, Odysseus said, "You've not been where we have. You weren't around when we all needed you. And now, since you cannot speak politely, you'll never sail to Skyros with those arms." After hearing such rebukes and insults, I'm sailing home without my property, thanks to that low-born criminal Odysseus. But I don't lay the blame so much on him as on those in command. For any city depends completely on those in control, and so must all the army. And when people grow unruly, it's what their teachers say that makes them so corrupt. That's my story. All I have to tell. If there's any more who hates those sons of Atreus, I hope the gods will cherish him the way I do.
You sailed here carrying your grief, pain like my own, a certain guarantee. You and your story harmonize with mine, so I can recognize how those men act. The sons of Atreus and that Odysseus, a man who I know well would set his tongue to every evil lie or debased act to get the unjust end he's looking for.
As that scene ends, eventually a merchant comes on the stage to sort of continue the sort of heist of the weapons. He's sent by Odysseus. He functions to sort of move the plot along and to make it more believable that Neoptolemus is there for Philoctetes' aid.
Let's move out of here, if that's what you desire. Why are you so silent? There's no need for that. Have you been paralyzed? What's wrong?
It's nothing serious, my boy. Just keep going.
Are you in agony from that disease which always bothers you?
No, I think it's better now. Oh, you gods! For them to come to me in person, save me!
Why don't you speak up? Why don't you tell me? It's obvious enough you're in some kind of pain.
I'm done for, my boy. I can't conceal this dreadful thing from you. Ah! It goes right through me, shooting pains. It's horrible. I'm in such agony. I'm being destroyed, my lad, eaten up. Oh my God, such awful pain. Oh, my boy, if you've got a sword at hand, by the gods, I beg you, slice my foot off. Here, where my leg ends, amputate it now. Don't worry about my life. Do it now, my boy.
Why do pains make you scream so suddenly? Why groan and cry like this?
You know, my son.
What is it?
My boy, you know the reason.
No, I don't. What's wrong with you?
How could you not know?
The agonizing weight of your defense.
That's right. The pain, it's indescribable. Have pity on me.
What should I do?
Don't grow afraid and just give up on me. The disease attacks me only now and then, perhaps when it has finished roaming elsewhere.
What do you want? Can I help you? Do you need my hand?
No, don't do that. But take this bow for me. You just asked if I would let you hold it. Make sure you guard it well. Keep it safe until this present fit for my disease gets less intense. Once the pain relents, I'll be overcome with sleep. It won't let me leave before that time, so let me rest in peace. If those two men get here while I'm asleep, don't give them the bow. No, by the gods, I tell you, don't. Not of your own free will, or without wanting to, or through a trick. You may get yourself destroyed, and me, and I'm your suppliant.
Don't worry. I'll be careful. No one's hands will touch the bow but yours and mine. Let me take it from you, and may it bring good luck.
Here, lad, take it. Give the gods' jealousy due reverence in case this bow brings you much suffering as it has me and the man who owned it before I did.
God grant us both success. A prosperous, quick trip to any place we come to on our trip, which God thinks right.
Oh, my boy, I'm afraid your prayers are useless. Dark red blood is dripping down, oozing out from deep within my sore, and I expect there'll be a new attacker. Oh, it's really bad. This accursed foot, it keeps tormenting me, creeping up my limb. Oh, it's almost here. Oh, it hurts so much. You know what's going on. Don't abandon me. Don't leave. Oh, Odysseus, you who were once my guest, how I now wish you were in such agony with pains like this driving through your chest. Oh, it's hard for me. It strikes again. You two commanders, you, Agamemnon and Menelaus, may this disease feed on the pair of you instead of for me, and as for as many years. Oh, it's too much for me. Oh, death, death, here I keep calling for you all the time. Why can't you ever come? Oh, noble boy, my child, my welcome friend, take me away and burn me in that famous Lemnian fire. I thought it right to do that service once for Zeus's son, and in return I got those weapons you are holding for me now. What do you say, my lad? What do you say? Why so quiet? What's on your mind, my son?
I feel so sorry for you. What you're going through has for a long time disturbed me.
Don't worry about that, my lad. Cheer up. These fits are nasty, but they pass off soon, so I beg you not to leave me here alone.
Don't be afraid. We'll stay.
You will not leave.
You can be sure of it.
My lad, I don't think it's fair to make you swear to
There's
it.
no need. It would be against the law for me to go without you.
Give me your hand. A pledge of trust.
I will stay. Here's my pledge.
I am close to death. Earth, embrace me now. These fits won't let me stand up anymore.
His sleep will overcome him soon. His head is sinking back. His whole body is soaked in sweat, and a black flow of blood has burst through on his heels. Leave him alone, my friends, so he can fall asleep.
Oh, sleep who knows no pain, sweet sleep so free of suffering, come to us with joy, my king, and bring him happiness. Hold before his eyes that light which shines around them now. Come down, I pray, and heal him. My son, think about where you are right now and how you sort out where we go from here. Do you not see him there? He's asleep. Let's act. Why hesitate? For opportunity which takes everything into account often wins decisively in one quick blow.
I cannot hear a thing, but even so, I know if we set off without this man, we'll have hunted down this bow in vain. The crown of victory belongs to him. The gods instructed us to lead him back. We'll bring disgrace and shame upon ourselves, boasting of what we did when the result was incomplete and we lied as well.
But the God will see to that, my boy. And when you answer me again, you must whisper to me, lad. Speak softly when you talk. In sickness, all men's slumber is not real sleep. It has keen eyes. I think you should use the utmost care, doing everything within your power, and take that bow. A major prize. Take it without alerting him. If you hold to what you intend for him, and you know clearly what I mean, then there are surely going to be some desperate problems facing us, which a prudent man could well foresee. Now, lad, a fair wind blows you on your course. This man's eyes are closed, his weapons gone, and he's stretched out in a dark sleep. And in this heat, a man sleeps soundly. He can't control his hands or feet, like someone lying with Hades. So think, if what you've talked about is practical, consider that, my boy. As far as I can grasp what's happening, the finest action is the one where there's nothing to fear.
Keep quiet, I tell you. Don't lose your wits. He's opening his eyes, raising his head.
To sleep and then see daylight. And friendly people watching out for me, a sight beyond my fondest hopes. My boy, I never have thought you would do this, remain here with such sympathy and wait to help me until my fit was over. Those fine generals, the sons of Atreus, you can be sure, would not have done that, not so readily. Your nature, lad, is good. You've got a noble ancestry.
I'm glad to see you're still alive, breathing without that pain. What I was expecting was something else. In your endless suffering, your symptoms made you look as if you had died. Now you should get up. Or, if you prefer, these men will carry you.
No, don't worry. I'll do what I always do to get up on my feet.
It's dreadful. What am I supposed to do at this point?
What is it, lad? These words of yours sound out of place.
I don't know how I need to frame my words. It's so confusing.
You're confused. No, my boy, don't say such things.
The position I'm in, it makes me feel like that.
The disgust you feel about my sickness. Surely that feeling has not persuaded you not to take me on your ship.
When a man abandons his own nature and then acts against his character, all things are dreadful.
But you, at least by helping a good man, have not been doing or saying anything your father wouldn't have done.
I'll be dishonored. That's the thought that keeps tormenting.
No, not because of what you're doing now, but the way you're talking has me worried.
Oh, Zeus, what do I do? Will I be disgraced twice over, hiding what I should not hide and forfeiting my honor with my words?
Unless I judge this situation badly, this man's intending to betray me. He'll leave me here and sail away.
No, I won't abandon you. I'll take you with me, but you'll really find the place distressing. All this time, that's what's been troubling me.
What do you mean, my boy? I do not understand.
I won't conceal a thing. You must sail to Troy, back to the Achaeans and the army led by those sons of Atreus.
Oh no, what are you saying?
Don't start wailing, not until you learn what it's about.
What's there to learn? What are you doing with me?
First, I'm saving you from this awful place, and then I'm going with you to plunder Troy.
And is that what you really mean to do?
There's a powerful necessity at work controlling these events. Keep your temper when you hear the story.
I'm done for. Betrayed. This is appalling. You, stranger, why have you done this to me? My bow, give it back to me right now.
I can't do that. Both my duty and my own self-interest compels me to obey those in command.
You, destructive fire. You, total monster. You hateful masterpiece of fearful treachery. What you've done to me. How you betrayed me. Aren't you ashamed to look at me, a man who was your suppliant, who begged your mercy? You wretch! When you deprive me of my bow, you take away my life, so hand it back. I'm begging you. Please, my lad, return it by your father's gods. Don't rob me of my life. This is atrocious. He's not speaking to me. He won't even look me in the eye, as if he'll never give me back my bow. Oh, you bays and headlands, you mountain beasts who've been a part of my life, you jagged rocks, to you I call. There's no one else to hear me. So to you, my customary companions, I cry out what this boy has done to me. Achilles' son, who made me a promise he'd take me home and who now leads me off to Troy. With his right hand, he pledged his word, then took my bow and keeps it for himself, the sacred bow of Heracles, Zeus's son, which he desires to show off to the Argives. He's taking me by force, as if I were some mighty warrior. He doesn't realize he's destroying a corpse, a smoky shadow, no more than a mere ghost. If I were strong, he'd not have captured me. Even as it is, with me in this condition, he'd not prevail except by trickery. It's my harsh fate. My hopes have been betrayed. What should I do? Give back the bow. Return to who you are, to your true character. Oh, what do you say?
What shall we do? It's up to you, my king, whether we sail off now or else comply with what he's asking.
Pity for this man. A dreadful pity has come over me, and it's nothing new. No, I felt it for a long time.
By the gods, my boy, have mercy on me. Don't give people cause to criticize you for deceiving me.
No, not that. What am I going to do? I wish I'd never sailed away from Skyros. What's going on here is just too painful.
You're not an evil man, but it seems to me you came here after learning shameful things from wicked men. Leave bad deeds to others, those fit to act that way, and sail from here. But first, give me my weapon.
Men, what shall we do?
What are you doing, you traitor? Come back here. Give me that bow.
Who's that? Do I hear Odysseus's voice?
Yes, it is Odysseus. Now you can grasp the way things are. I'm here. See for yourself.
Alas, I've been betrayed. I'm being destroyed. So he's the one who really caught me out and stole my weapons.
That's right. It was me and no one else. I will acknowledge that.
Give me the bow, boy. Hand it over.
He won't do it, even if he wants to. No, you've got to come along with me. If not, these men will take you off by force.
Of all evil men, you are the nastiest and boldest too. They'll take me in by force?
Yes, unless you come of your own free will.
Oh, Lemnos, and you all-powerful flames lit by Hephaestus, can you endure this? That this man will compel me now to leave?
I tell you, it's Zeus who rules this country. Yes, Zeus, and this has been ordained by Zeus. I am his servant.
You despicable man, you just invent the things you say. And by making claims about the gods, you turn them into liars.
No, I don't. They speak the truth. We have to go.
I won't.
But I say you will. You have to obey.
This is all so shameful. It's clear enough. My father conceived in me a slave and no free man.
You're wrong. He made a man to be just like the finest warriors with whom you're going to capture Troy by force and then destroy it.
I'll never do it. Not even if I have to undergo every kind of torment. Not while I stand with these steep island rocks below me.
What will you do?
I'll throw myself directly off this cliff and smash my head into the stone down there.
Grab him. Don't let him do that.
My arms, what suffering you must bear because you lack that bow you cherish so.
I'm the kind of man who adapts himself to each occasion. So, faced with being judged by good, fair men, you'd find no one more pious than myself. By nature, I'm a man who needs to win in everything, however, not with you. So now I'll happily defer to you. Let him go. There's no longer any need for you to hold him. Let him remain here. We have Teucer with us, a skilled archer. So am I. I believe it's possible for me to use this bow no worse than you. My hand can aim it as well as yours. So why do we need you? Enjoy yourself, strolling here on Lemnos. We'll be on our way. Your prize may quickly bring me honors which should belong to you.
No, not that. You are going to march among the Argives equipped with weapons which belong to me?
Don't argue with me anymore. I'm going.
Son of Achilles, am I going to hear your voice say anything to me? Are you about to leave without another word?
Move on. Don't look at him. You may well be a noble man, but don't ruin our good luck.
And you, my guests, will you leave me here like this and not feel pity?
The boy commands our ship. What he says to you, that's what we say as well.
Odysseus will say I am too sensitive. But you stay here, if that's all right with him, until the sailors have prepared the ship and we have offered prayers up to the gods. Philoctetes may quickly change his mind as soon as he thinks better of us. But we too are leaving now. When we call for you, make sure you leave from here at once.
So that scene leaves us in a bit of suspense about whether or not Philoctetes will join them on the journey. And it also sort of leaves us contemplating the characters of the people involved. David, you were talking about some of the themes that really moved you in this play. Where does sort of Odysseus's character, especially in that last scene, sort of sit in those themes?
He's, again, as I sort of alluded to earlier, the spokesperson for the point of view of strict expediency, doing whatever, I guess you would say the ends justifies the means in Odysseus's case. And what I find most interesting about the way the play is working through this theme is the position it puts, the situation puts Neoptolemus in. Neoptolemus is really confronted with an ethical choice here, a profound ethical choice. And as I've been watching and listening to this performance, one thing that was impressed upon me is the fact that Neoptolemus is a young man without a father. So when he is introduced, or when he introduces himself to Philoctetes in a very complex scene in which we are not altogether sure what is a lie, what is being invented for the sake of expediency, and what is true. One thing he does emphasize, which is quite true, is that Achilles, his father, is dead. And Neoptolemus is, in a sense, in need of some guidance. And Odysseus is a kind of father figure to him and a kind of teacher, instructor. And Philoctetes is also a kind of potential father figure. And so Neoptolemus is really confronted with different models in this play about where, or different points of orientation. And I just want to highlight one line that really stood out to me. And this was just before the break we took, where the merchant scene, which we didn't hear, and we had a short break there. But there's a line just before that where at the end of a long speech from Neoptolemus, he says, "When people grow unruly, it's what their teachers say that makes them so corrupt." And I think it's very telling that Neoptolemus has this reflection as he is kind of heading into this ethical crisis.
And the ethical crisis, it's not a personal ethical crisis, right? It is personal, but it's also part of the larger expedition. There's responsibility, there's the state. And several themes strike me in this. Part of it is sort of the discomfort with another's pain, right? When we're reading Sophocles, sort of Philoctetes' pain doesn't jump out in the same way, but witnessing it read aloud and thinking about our own taboos and our own discomfort and sort of acknowledging not just mortality, but suffering and that moment of wondering what we do with it. And so, David Naomi talked a lot about, or mentioned this theme of expediency. And in Odysseus, and this probably might be me a little too much thinking about it, but Odysseus's words remind me of the Melian dialogue and sort of Athenian projection of power. But of the themes we've talked about, what do you imagine audiences sort of responding to in the period? Like, what's going on in their world that makes these themes sort of have purchase?
Thank you. I'll just to say, first of all, yes, seeing and hearing this performance really brought home the pain of Philoctetes, and also, and this also gets to how an audience might respond before I go on to the particular political context, how one responds to pain as Neoptolemus starts to waver, having previously done very well in his deceit. He doesn't just say in this translation, "I feel so sorry for you," but actually, "I feel pain, algo." So there's something about Philoctetes' pain that is transmissible, is contagious, and that's a really crucial part of Neoptolemus's changeability. He's quite a mutable character, and certainly Philoctetes' pain affects him. But in terms of the particular context, so 409 BCE, Athens has been at war with Sparta for 22 years. So the idea of how far do you go to ensure victory in a war is quite up there, I would have thought, in an audience's mind, and to what extent you might let go of your principles, of what at least you think your nature is, would be too. And then the particular kinds of rhetoric that Odysseus voices would probably have been quite resonant, at least if we can assume that Thucydides is a reliable witness. Many of the characters who show up in Thucydides' account of the Peloponnesian War, like Cleon, for example, are master rhetoricians, and their language is very much picked up by Odysseus, especially this language of expediency, justice on the one hand versus what's beneficial to the city. So I expect that would have been quite powerful for the audience. And then finally, 409 BCE was 2 years after an oligarchic coup in Athens. There was not a democracy for a while. Instead, there was an oligarchy of 400, and then the democracy was restored just a year before the performance of this play. It's hard to know exactly how this play may or may not be related to that, but ideas about leadership and leadership of the city surely would have been at the forefront of people's minds.
One of the things you said at the beginning was about the contagion of Philoctetes' pain. And there's something about that that's deeply moving if we think about the context of a theatrical performance, of playing roles, but also early Greek theories about catharsis and what happens in the theater. And to an extent, this play is perhaps also about the limits of compassion and sympathy and how far we can go. I mean, one of the things we've talked about in multiple performances of reading Greek tragedy online is our own voyeurism, our own witnessing of experiences vicariously and then on our own. And, you know, I think in recent weeks, we've seen conversations about who do we have compassion for? Whom do we have sympathy for when countries are invaded, when countries are occupied? And so in this final, you know, the final scene we're about to turn to, the question is, on what side do we end up, right? Whose voice, whose story becomes the sort of final one? In sort of great Sophoclean fashion, there's no simple answer. So we'll all come back together to talk more about this at the end of the performance, but we'll return now to our not so much friends, Odysseus, Neoptolemus, and Philoctetes.
I'd have left you here some time ago and gone back to my ship if I'd not seen Odysseus coming and bringing with him Achilles' son. They're getting close to us.
Why are you coming back along this path at such a rapid pace?
I was wrong before. I have to fix all those mistakes I made.
You sound odd. What mistakes are those?
I used disgraceful lies and sly deceit to catch a man.
What sort of man? Hang on. Are you devising some foolhardy scheme?
No, nothing rash. But with Poias' son.
What are you going to do? A certain fear has just occurred to me.
Whose bow I took, I'll return it.
By Zeus, what are you saying? You don't intend to hand it back to him?
Yes, I got it in a shameful manner, and it's not right for me to keep it.
There are those who will prevent you carrying that out.
What are you saying? Who will try to stop me?
The whole Achaean army, including me.
You were born wise. There's no wisdom now in what you say.
But these words of yours and what you plan to do are most imprudent.
I made a mistake and lost my honor. I must try to get it back.
If you do try, aren't you afraid of the Achaean troops?
With justice at my side, I do not fear the danger you describe.
Well, then our fight is not against the Trojans, but with you.
If that's what it has to be, so be it.
Do you see my right hand resting on my sword?
You'll see me doing the same. I won't hesitate.
All right, for now I'll leave you, but I'll go and tell the army what is happening here, and they will punish you.
Now you're reasonable. If you keep up this frame of mind in future, perhaps you will not stumble into trouble. You there, son of Poias, I'm calling you. Philoctetes, come out. Leave that rock you call your home.
Now who's standing there making an unruly noise outside the cave? Why are you calling me? What do you want? Oh, no. This is some wretched business. Are you here to bring me some new trouble on top of all the others?
Don't despair. Listen to the news I bring.
I'm afraid. Fine words brought me disaster once before when I trusted what you said.
Is there no way I can apologize?
You used words like that and stole my bow. You won my confidence, but secretly you worked for my destruction.
But now I'm not like that. I wish to learn whether you want to stay on living here, enduring these conditions, or sail with us.
Stop there. Do not speak anymore. Your words will all be wasted.
You are quite sure of that?
Yes, I am, more sure than any words can say.
I wish my words could have persuaded you. But if there's nothing I can say to help, then I will stop.
Everything you say, it's useless. You'll never win my confidence. Not now. You've taken away my livelihood, robbed me with a trick. Then you come over here to give me your advice, you shameless son of such a noble father. May you all die. The son of Atreus first, then Laertes' son, then you.
Stop making all those curses and take these weapons from my hand.
What do you mean? Am I being tricked again?
No. I swear by the sacred majesty of Zeus.
Such welcome words if what you say is true.
My actions will show that. Put out your hand and take your weapons back.
No! In the name of the sons of Atreus and the whole army, I'm telling you no! As gods are witnesses for me.
My lad, who was that speaking? It wasn't Odysseus.
Yes, it is me. Now you can see up close the man who will take you off to Troy by force, whether Achilles' son wants that or not.
That won't bring you any joy if this arrow flies straight directly to its mark.
By the gods, don't shoot that arrow off.
In the name of the gods, dear lad, let go!
No, I won't.
Oh, alas, why did you spoil my chance to use this bow of mine to kill that enemy I hate?
That would mean disaster for us both, for you and me.
You should know the army's leaders, lying spokesmen for the Greeks, though bold in speech, are cowards in a fight.
That may be true, but now you have the bow. You have no reason to be angry with me or complain about my conduct. Pay attention now to what I'd like from you. Men must endure those fortunes given to them by the gods. But when they insist on injuring themselves, the way you're doing now, then it's not right to pity or excuse them. You've become such a savage man, rejecting all advice. If someone who's a friend of yours speaks out and says you're doing wrong, you hate them. You call him your enemy, a traitor. But still, I'll speak to you, invoking Zeus, who punishes the men who break their oaths. Keep these words in mind. Write them on your heart. You've been suffering from this affliction as fate sent from the gods, because you went too close to Chryse's secret sentinel, the snake which keeps watch where she lives and guards her sacred precinct open to the sky. Know this too. You will never find an end to this dreadful agony of yours. Not while the sun still rises in the east and sets in the west, until you come of your own free will to the Trojan plain, and there among us meet Asclepius' sons. Find relief from this disease, and with help from me and that bow, be known to all as the man who smashed the towers of Troy. I'll tell you how I came to know these things. We took a Trojan called Helenus, an excellent prophet who clearly states that these things must happen, and in addition, predicts we will seize Troy in this coming summer. You'll be judged the most exceptional man among the Greeks. First, for coming there to hands which healed you, then, more than that, for capturing Troy, the source of so much grief. You'll win the very highest fame there is.
Oh, hateful life. Why keep me here above, gazing at the light? Why not release me and send me down to Hades? What shall I do? Alas, how can I distrust what this man says? He gives me good advice as a good friend. So then, do I relent? If I do yield, how can I, given my unhappy fate, appear in public view? Who do I talk to? You eyes of mine that have witnessed everything I've had to go through, how could you bear it to see me socializing with those men, the sons of Atreus, who ruined me, or with Laertes' all-destroying son? It's not the pain of what I've endured that gnaws at me. I seem to see ahead all the things I'll have to suffer from them from now on. Once a man's mind has become the mother of evil acts, it trains him to deceive in everything that follows. And in this matter, I'm surprised at you. You must never return to Troy yourself and should prevent me going there. Those men did you an injury by taking away your father's weapons when, in that contest for his arms, they judged heartbroken Ajax inferior to Odysseus. After that, will you fight as their ally and force me to do so too? Do not do it, my son, but take me home as you have sworn to do.
What you say is reasonable. Nonetheless, I'd like you to rely upon the gods and my own words and sail away from here with me, your friend.
The advice you're giving me is frightening me. What are you saying?
I recognize what's best for you and me.
When you say that, you don't feel any shame before the gods.
How can a man feel shame when he's helping out a friend of his?
Are you talking about some benefit for me or for the sons of Atreus?
For you, of course. I'm your friend. What I say is spoken in friendship.
How can that be true? You want to hand me to my enemies.
Dear man, such troubles, you must learn to not be so stubborn.
You'll ruin me with these words of yours, I know that.
No, I won't. But you don't understand. That's what I'm saying.
Don't I understand how those sons of Atreus threw me aside?
Yes, they cast you off, but you should see if they will rescue you again.
Never. Not if I agree I must go to Troy.
What can I do then, if what I say will not convince them? The easiest thing for me is to say no more. And then you can go on living out here as you do now without being rescued.
Let me keep my suffering, whatever I must suffer. But those things you swore to me with your right hand and mine to take me home, do that for me, my son. And don't hold back or keep reminding me about Troy anymore. I've had enough of howling lamentations here.
All right. If that's what you truly want, let's leave.
Oh, such noble words.
Plant your feet firmly.
I will, as firmly as my strength allows.
How will I escape being blamed for this by the Achilles?
Forget about those men.
What if they destroy my country?
I'll be there.
What assistance will you give?
With these arrows which come from Heracles,
What are you saying?
I'll stop them coming in.
Then let's depart. Once you have bid your island home farewell.
Some poets, not until you've heard the words that I shall utter. Know this, you're listening to the voice of Hercules and you're gazing on his face. For your sake, I have left the throne of heaven and come to announce to you the purposes of Zeus and to stop the journey you're proposing. So pay attention now to what I say. First, I will inform you of my exploits, for by struggling with so many labours and by seeing my work through to the end, I won immortal glory for myself, as you can see. As for you, you must know it is your destiny that from these troubles, you make your life something men honour. With this man, you will reach the Trojan city, where first your savage illness will be cured. Then you'll be chosen as the finest man from all the warriors, and with my bow will cut short the life of Paris, the man who is the cause of all this wickedness. You will ransack Troy, and from the army carry off the prize for utmost bravery, and take it home with you to Anita, in your native mountains, to the great joy of Achilles, your father. Whatever prizes you get from the army, select them as an offering for my bow and carry it to my funeral pyre. Son of Achilles, this advice I'm giving is for you as well. You are not strong enough to capture Troy without this man, and he's not strong enough without you there. Like a pair of lions stalking prey on common ground, the two of you must guard each other's life. To cure your illness, I'll send Asclepius to Troy, which is doomed to fall a second time thanks to my arrows. But remember this, when you waylaced to that land, show reverence to the gods. For father's use thinks of all other things as less than that. And when men perish, piety does not. Whether they're alive or dead, it does not die.
Oh, that voice that I have longed to hear, my friend who stands revealed to me after so long. I will not disobey what you have said.
And I too will consent to what you have said.
Spend a long time waiting here. A stern wind will blow you to urge you onwards. The time is right to sail.
All right then. Let me salute this land as I depart. Farewell, you cave that shared my vigil, and farewell, you nymphs of streams and meadows, you pounding headlands beaten by the sea, where in the inner spaces of my den, the blasts from south wind often soaked my head, where Mount Hermea often echoed the cries I screamed out in my storms of pain. But now, you Lycian streams and waters, I am leaving you, going away at last beyond all hopes I ever entertained. Farewell, you sea-encircled land of Lemnos. Send me away content on a fair voyage to the place ordained by a mighty fate, by opinions of my friends, and by the God who conquers all and has brought this about.
Let's all leave in a group once we have prayed to the ocean nymphs, so they will come and guide us safely on our journey home.
I think we can take a moment to thank the actors for their work. And she's probably listening from her throne on Olympus, but Abby Miller too should be acknowledged for her Heraclean turn in that one. So we'll send her the thanks. So this is one of those plays where I'm always like right there with it. It all makes sense. Neoptolemus is going to go home with Philoctetes. They're done with the war, maybe even be worse. And then Heracles comes in. And I'm like, what just happened to me? Is this a happy ending? What? So Naomi, make sense of this for me. How do you integrate the parts of the play together to make sense of that ending?
That's a really tough question. I don't know. I mean, I have the same response, both to the sudden appearance of Heracles and to what Heracles says, for various reasons. So as to the sudden appearance, I mean, I don't want to always go back to this is what the ancient Greek audience might think or might experience, but we know that the ending that seems to be happening cannot happen. Philoctetes has to go back to Troy, as does Neoptolemus, because, and this is a crucial part of Neoptolemus's character that an audience would know, Neoptolemus is going to become one of the most bloody, savage, ruthless warriors there is. There are. I mean, he's going to throw the child Astyanax from the battlements, and he's going to slaughter Priam at an altar. So we know that that's going to happen. So in a way, we need Heracles to come in. That said, it is jarring, and I think it's meant to be jarring in part because we're not meant to feel that this is an easy ending. And part of that is because we know that Neoptolemus is going to be this character we know him to be. So when Heracles says piety does not die, what? I mean, there are lots of things that Heracles seems to wrap up in a nice bow, which we should not take at face value, given the strife that these two warriors are going to enter into. So that doesn't really answer your question, but just to say, I think this is a deliberately complicated, complex ending.
And anytime Heracles is trying to comfort you by saying, look how good things turned out for me, you should probably wonder what's going on. And so, you know, the first time we performed this play, we were really thinking a lot about isolation and returning to one another in community. But seeing the end now, I think in part to say the end of the Oresteia, or stories that are about reintegrating communities that are almost impossible to return to normalcy, right? And so there's a fantasy element there. And the Deus Ex Machina at the end, in part, like stands in for that sort of whatever miraculous unknown thing needs to be done to knit a community back together. But so David, earlier you talked about this theme of isolation and social wholeness, right? And it's easy to see in the beginning when Philoctetes is sort of, has been savaged by his years apart. But how do you trace the theme of sort of wholeness through the play and to this end?
You want me to do a reading of the whole play from beginning to end?
In 90 seconds.
Right, okay, just want to make, well, so let me start by saying, right, there are no easy answers in this play. And just to tie this back into the previous line of the previous exchange, and I'm so glad that Naomi pointed us towards what happens after this play as being very relevant here. I mean, one line that that scholars have taken in understanding the Deus Ex Machina is that it isn't this. I mean, you had asked, how do we integrate the parts of this play? In some sense, the difficulty, the problem of this ending is an indication that you can't actually integrate the different parts of the play. This is one line that scholars have taken, that there are contradictions here. And so, one contradiction, I think, goes back somehow in the story, the big story of Philoctetes. One contradiction inheres in the situation of Philoctetes himself. The story is he's wounded. He has this terrible wound, which causes him to cry out in pain. And we see very much in this play how disruptive those cries of pain are. This was so powerfully brought forward in the performance here. These are cries of pain that dissolve language, that stop people from communicating, that cause Philoctetes to break down into just literally unspeakable and unspeaking agony, right? And remember how grateful he was for the sound of the Greek language. He longs for community, for the connectivity that is produced in language, but his cries of pain prevent that connectivity from happening. So in this, that was a bit of a digression, I'm sorry. In the story, he's bitten by the serpent. He has these disruptive cries of pain, this terrible stench that arises from his infection. And this, in the story, disrupts the sacrifices of the Greeks. They can't conduct sacrifice properly. And so they have to leave, or they believe that they have to leave Philoctetes or exile him, consign him to isolation. And the irony here, the contradiction that's built in, is that, of course, a sacrifice in this society is a way of bringing the community together, actually, and is an expression of social integration. It is a moment when the community assembles. So the contradiction here is that in order supposedly to achieve that integration, they expel Philoctetes. And that's a contradiction that is there right at the outset. And in a way, the whole play is kind of just trying to deal or work through that contradiction. At the end, there's a moment when Philoctetes says, "What, now I'm going to return? What was all that business about how you couldn't have me around before?" And he's sort of pointing to this fundamentally contradictory, I don't know, idea, way of thinking that is the cause of his exile. I didn't give you a reading of the whole play from beginning to end, but I'll just leave it there.
Well, and I mean, there is something, I think, powerful about the impossibility of integrating the disfavored parts of a community or the discarded parts, right? I can imagine the play being a vehicle for disabled communities, for marginalized communities of other senses. And in a way, you could be as bold as to say there's an allegory for almost the impossibility of the fantasy of a democracy that functions in a fully integrated way.
I think that's an amazing point. One of the things that fascinates me about this play, but about the performative literature of the Greeks more generally is the relation between the world conjured in the text, in the play, the poem, and the world in which it is performed. And there is a sense in which in the play we see an unresolvable contradiction, but also maybe a hope that in that ritual of performance, which is also one of these rituals of assembling the community, of bringing the citizen body together to see the performance of the play, there is also maybe a hope that that is where somehow the contradiction gets resolved and the community gets restored, rehabilitated, whole.
So Naomi, to sort of take you along with this, do you see then the ritual performance as sort of bearing witness to sort of the disjunction of a community as being a possibly unifying feature of this performance?
Possibly. I mean, certainly the performance context is a profoundly civic one. I find that a really difficult question to answer, also because the integration that's suggested at the and performed at the end of the play is not just a potential civic integration, but actually a very personal friendship. There's a use of the dual in Greek, two people together, Neoptolemus and Philoctetes. So there's a sense of that sort of very profound bond, both as a kind of father-son combination and as peers on the battlefield. And I guess you could sort of go out from there towards the civic community. But sorry, that's a wish-washy answer to a difficult question.
Yeah, it was not a fair question. So stay... Getting a little more fair. So part of what we do sort of at the end of these conversations is enjoying the actors to talk about their experiences in the play. But Naomi, so you did this with us online before. How was this experience sort of different from that? And how has it made you rethink this play?
Yeah, very interesting question. I mean, one basic difference is that however much ingenious movement there was in the Zoom performances, there are whole bodies here. And for a play that is so fundamentally about the body, among other things, I mean, not just pain, but there is so much focus on this guy's leg and also his bodiliness, the sort of ways in which he has been reduced to a beast crawling around trying to find food. That is much more powerfully conveyed to me in this format, just because I'm more aware of René's body, René as Philoctetes, and not just a sort of disembodied head on Zoom. That said, I should say, and actually Paul and I were talking about this just the other day, one of the very powerful effects of the Zoom performances was that the performers were always necessarily looking straight at the camera. So that kind of very sort of close encounter experience was actually maybe a surprising advantage of theatre by Zoom, where so even though you can't experience the whole body of the performer, there is maybe a different sort of connection that you can't get to the same degree in the theatre.
So maybe, I don't know if it would be easiest if the actors just walked to the podium, Paul, or should I take so René first, since you were invoked already. We had joked in several times that you were with us on Zoom that the screen couldn't contain you, right? And this time, a music stand tried to contain you, right? So how do you go about being Philoctetes in this sort of hybrid space?
Well, I mean, similarly, as Naomi just pointed out, playing this on Zoom would have been a very different experience for me because so much about Philoctetes is in his body and is about his body. And so fun to be able to try to actualize that more so than I would have been able to on Zoom. And I would love to someday be able to do a full production of this play to investigate his physicality more, and how the pain comes and goes, and how he sometimes seems to be able to use his foot more than other times he seems to be able to use his foot, and what that journey would be like. But for the course of the reading, you know, you can only but do so much. And so I really was just like, what are the essential elements to be able to tell the story? Is really what I was just trying to focus on.
Thank you. Damian as Neoptolemus. So we've had you do several sort of noble roles before. What's the sort of mental and emotional journey that you take in the play as Neoptolemus?
Sorry, what is the
sort of mental and emotional journey in those turns of action?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, one of the challenges of this role is he is like a leader and he is a king, right? And we could go with the idea of, you know, this kind of like statured man that's always talking like this. But one of the key things regarding the character is that he has to be trusted, right? And this kind of armor doesn't really instill trust, right? So there has to be a kind of softness, a kind of almost childlike nature, kind of like younger quality feel, even though he is a leader. And, you know, and he, like he says to Odysseus, you know, I have my hand on my sword as well. Like, I can take you, right? But when he's with Philoctetes, there has to be that quality of like son in a way, so that the trust is there, so he can achieve the thing. So that kind of like balance for me was where the challenge lied.
And I'm glad you bring that up, because I'm going to bring David in on this one, because one of the things that always sort of perplexes me about this play is how old we're supposed to imagine this Neoptolemus, right? Like on some very basic level, he's like 12 or something, like we want to be literal. Right, yeah, no. So David, my fellow Homerist, how do you make sense of sort of the characterization of Neoptolemus and what people might have thought about his age?
Oh, I think he's very clearly, I mean, he is this sort of, I think he's hard to place in terms of our notion of, you know, the relation between childhood and adulthood. But I think for the Greek audience, he's very clearly younger and probably a figure kind of on the cusp of adulthood. But I see his activity in this play, I mean, the mission that they're on, as basically as an initiatory ordeal, that where Odysseus, so I'm invoking a kind of ritual paradigm of, you know, a society in which a young pre-adult person has to go through some kind of ordeal, usually under the guidance of an older person, to be fully socially adult. And there are paradigms, by the way, in Greek culture for such an ordeal that in a way inverts the normal ethical paradigms of adult society and involves theft, stealing, deception, etc. So here I think we see Neoptolemus. You're right. I mean, he is a king. He's a leader of men. He's taking over his father's role. But he at this moment is going through something that is going to, in a way, result in a different kind of social status. And what I think becomes deeply troubling about this play and about the ending is precisely our knowledge of what Neoptolemus becomes at Troy. And so there's a question, I think, about whether this is a successful initiation or not.
In those terms, Naomi, another hard one, because I hadn't really thought about this before either of you mentioned it, but do you think ancient audiences saw this play in part as sort of explanatory for who he became? Or is this not even part of the equation? Is he just sort of like an out of stock character? My apologies.
Well, this is where I don't know about ancient audiences. I can give you just how I react to Neoptolemus. I don't see this as an explanation for who we know he becomes, but I see him as presenting various different models of who he could become, and he's in this crucial transition period, so can be swayed one way or the other depending on the teacher who he's with. And I think the play is more interested in how this person who claims to have, at the very beginning, a noble, true nature, but very naively so, can go against it so completely in the interests of victory, of success, and in the interests of following in the footsteps of a leader like Odysseus. And then all the sort of adolescent worries that come as a result of that decision. But I guess that's how I respond to it. I think it's very important to know how he's going to end up, because that leaves it all a kind of question. There's no resolution, and he's going to go on changing. We know that for sure.
And I like that interpretation a lot, because unlike, let's say, the second trilogy of Star Wars movies that painfully explains every step to the dark side, right? It leaves a lot to the imagination for other people's stories. Right, so thank you for the good answer to a bad question. So Eunice, you're the chorus. The chorus, as we were discussing a bit before, plays a bit of a strange role in this play, right? It's not like, say, in Antigone, where you get these amazing set pieces. It's a strange part of the action. So what do you see the chorus doing in the play, and how did that motivate your presentation?
It is quite different from those other plays, in that it isn't a sort of standing apart or, sort of looking at the whole. That for me, there was no sort of, let's go and look at the whole thing and how everybody's behaving. But it was almost just like they were there to go, come on, do it, go on. And just every now and then to go, yep, you've forgotten the job in hand. Come on, and just keep doing it and doing it. And if you're not going to do it, I'm just going to go. And there didn't really seem to be the empathetic side to this chorus. So it was just somebody to just keep going, well, you know what you're here to do. But then there was a little moment of them going, oh, okay, then if that's what you want to do. Because ultimately the chorus can't decide. From what I know of choruses, they can't actually decide. They can try and guide or push, but they can't. Okay then, fine, drown. They can't do anything about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And saving the nastiest for last, Sara. So I think there's a temptation to see Odysseus as almost comically villainous, but your Odysseus was restrained. What sort of motivated your depiction of Odysseus that way?
For this story, when I was reading it, it felt like we needed to see the opposite of. We needed to see what Neoptolemus was going to be up against, and that for me the story was really sort of putting Neoptolemus in the middle of which side he's going to swing to. So my goal was to try to make Odysseus as unwavering as possible, to put Neoptolemus in the most sort of awkward position possible between compassion and ends justifying means. So I purposely was thinking Odysseus had to kind of be more, he couldn't, there's a mission, we have to do this, the means will justify the ends will justify the means, and that way the other characters could work on the compassionate part or the empathetic part or the opposite, giving a duality, I guess.
So the banality of evil.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
So we are near the end of our time, just today, not in life in general. And I want to get maybe we should ask Heracles to come back and tell us. I'd like to, again, thank the actors, right, for the great performances, Naomi and David for here humoring my questions and spending time with us today. And also want to note that both of them were instrumental in making this event happen today. But our artistic director and director of the day, Paolo Mani, love to have some words from you to close the day.
Thank you very much. And yeah, I'd just like to echo that as well, just saying a huge thank you to Naomi, to David, to Joel, and to everyone who's made this all possible. And this is the first time that we've done something like this in person all together. And it's just been such a wonderful moment to kind of get to actually see that we're all real and we all have other parts of work. And that's just been, yeah, just truly brilliant. And something I think that really kind of came out of that as well is that we were sort of exploring earlier is that how much extra sort of pace and energy we were able to bring to this performance, say, than something over Zoom, where you have to be really careful that you don't speak over someone because then it breaks out for a while and things like that. But actually now when you're next to someone, it doesn't matter if you stumble and someone speaks over you or something like that, because actually you can really get that sense of the breakneck speed of what's happening, the urgency of it all. And I think that kind of rule that a lot of people talk about with Shakespeare, say, where every character is always 10 seconds away from death. And that's what motivates them to keep on speaking and to argue their point and to say something, because if they don't say it, then maybe it's over. And I think that is something that can really come across in person in a way that is harder to create on Zoom. All that being said, though, and this is our first in-person event, and we hope the first of many, because we would love to do more of this work and also workshops and full productions as well. Would be a wonderful thing. But all that to say that we will be returning to Zoom as well as part of this series, and doing more live streaming on YouTube. So just to say that the next up in our season, so this is our season opener. This is season sort of 3.3B or something like that. But it's about, let's call it season 4. And this is our season opener. And in 3 weeks' time, on April the 20th, we will have our second bilingual episode, which will be an episode directed by Achilles, who you may well know from other episodes within the series. Achilles is making his directorial debut at the National Theatre of Greece this summer, directing Ajax at Epidaurus, and will be directing a bilingual episode for us on April the 20th. So we're very excited about that. Tabitha Gale, who has directed many episodes previously, she will be returning on May the 4th. And then on May the 18th, we'll have an episode that will be all about Euripides' Aeon. And we will end this season, so we're going to do a block of 5 with Prometheus Bound on June the 1st. So that will be sort of what will end, and that's the season for now. I also just wanted to let everyone know that our competition, Playing Dionysus, which is open to anyone in the US who is a student in high school or at university level, that is now open, and with the support of the SCS, there are prizes to be won. Of course, there's everlasting glory for the winners, but also money. So check out the Out of Chaos website, and we're also tweeting all about that. So there's a US competition, and a Canadian Canadian students are welcome to apply for that. That's North American. That's a good way of saying it. And there is also a competition that is running in Greece that is called Playing Bacchae, and we have a Playing Oedipus competition, which is happening in Italy as well. All those details are on the Out of Chaos website. And yeah, just the last thing I'd like to say before I hand back to Joel is to say just another huge thank you to all of these actors, to Evie as well, and yes, and thank you very much for watching either in the room or on YouTube.
So for final word, thanks to the crew that made it possible, Ali at CHS in the classics department at Harvard, Teresa helped make this possible. Funding to help bring us together is provided by Brandeis University, the School of Arts and Science, and the Sciences and Classical Studies, as well as its Faculty of Arts and Sciences here, and the Department of Classics here. And again, to the tireless, boundless energy of Paul, who makes this all possible. I hope we'll see you online over the rest of season 4, and maybe again in person next year, when we've skipped a few more waves of COVID, and we could all gather together again. Everyone take care, stay safe, and we'll see you again soon.
Back.